Directions. In this section of the test, you will have an opportunity to demonstrate your ability to understand conversations and talks in English. There are 3 parts in this section with special directions for each part. Answer all the questions on the basis of what is stated or implied by the speakers in the recording. There will be time for you to read the instructions and you will have a chance to check your work. The recording will be played once only. Now you will have some time to look at part 1. We will tell you when part 1 begins. Part 1, Questions 1 to 8. Directions. In this part, you will hear 8 short announcements or instructions. There is 1 question for each announcement or instruction. For each question, choose the right answer, A, B, C or D. Then, on the answer sheet, find the number of the question and fill in the space that corresponds to the letter of the answer that you have chosen. Now, let's listen to an example. On the recording, you will hear.
Hello. This is the travel agency returning your call. You left a message about the holiday you booked, asking which meals are included in the cost during your stay at Sunny Hotel. Lunch and dinner are free, but if you wish to have breakfast in the hotel, you will need to pay an extra amount of money, depending on what you order. Let me know if I can help you with any other information. Goodbye.
On the test book, you will read. Which meal is not included in the price of the holiday? A. Breakfast. B. Lunch. C. Dinner. D. All. The correct answer is A. Breakfast. Now, let's begin with the first question.
Where did the girl and her family go on holiday?
Where did you and your family go for your holiday?
Well, we all wanted to drive to the mountains. We love it there. But it started raining heavily on the way, so Mum thought we'd have to go to the nearest town and stay there instead. We weren't even near a beach or anything.
Well, you couldn't go there in the rain anyway.
No, but then, luckily, the weather suddenly improved. So we drove on to where we'd wanted to go after all.
Great!
Question 2.
Which cyclist won the race?
That was a great cycle race. I never expected they'd cycle so fast, especially the one in the shirt with spots on.
Yes, he was in front of the others for ages. It's a shame he had a problem with his bike.
Yes, then the one in the white shirt passed him, and he looked good until he was overtaken by the winner.
The one in the plain black shirt, he was amazingly fast.
Question 3.
Why couldn't the girl go to photography club yesterday?
Where were you yesterday, Maria? We were expecting you at photography club.
Well, I had to go shopping for my mum first, but I was still back in time to get to photography. But then my mum's sister came. We hadn't seen her for ages, so my mum wanted me to stay at home.
Right. So what about next time?
Let's see. We had a hockey match against another school last week, and we're playing a return match that evening, but it'll be over by the time photography club starts.
Question 4.
Where will the boy and his friend practice basketball?
Our team's got a basketball match tomorrow, And my friend Sam and I need some extra practice. The school gym is closed today, though.
Well, you could always go to the park. There's a net there, and you'd have plenty of space. Or Mum says you can use the net Dad put up here in our garden, just by the house. That'd be easier.
You're right. I think the park's too far away.
Give Sam a call then, and ask him to come.
OK.
Question 5.
How did the girl get to school?
Hi, Zoe. I thought you were going to be late to school. Was the school bus delayed again?
Well, someone said there were lots of people on it, but I wouldn't know. I wasn't on it. I finally got my bike out this morning.
Really? Well, you've said for ages you wanted to come to school on it.
But in the end, my dad had to drive me instead. When I tried to ride my bike, the brakes didn't work.
Oh!
Question 6.
Which music poster does the boy prefer?
You've got some amazing music posters on your wall, Jamie. I really loved that one of the guitarist.
Yeah, it's from a concert I went to with my older brother. And that one's of a drummer he likes. Not my choice, really, but it's okay.
And who's the singer? I don't recognise him at all.
Nor me. My sister gave me it. To be honest, I think I'll just keep that poster you like on the wall and take the other two down. I'm not so keen on them.
Question 7.
Where will they go after the cinema?
I've got the cinema tickets. The film's at 2:30 this afternoon. What shall we do when it's finished? We could have a hot chocolate at the cafe.
That'd be nice, but I've got to get some information for my school project before I go home.
OK, I'll come and help you in the library if you want. I was going to return a CD to the music shop, but we could come back tomorrow to do that.
OK, we could go for a hot chocolate afterwards tomorrow.
Great!
Question 8.
What will Sam take on the school museum trip tomorrow?
Hi Harry, it's Sam, with a message for you about tomorrow's trip. I've bought a new memory card for my camera, but I think you're taking yours, aren't you? So I'll leave mine at home. I'll be responsible for pens and paper instead. I know our teacher wants us to take notes inside the museum. And why don't you ask Max to bring the textbook we have to take? We only need one between us, and it's really heavy.
This is the end of part 1. Now, go on to part 2. Now you will have some time to look at part 2. We will tell you when part 2 begins. Part 2, Questions 9 to 20. In this part, you will hear 3 conversations. The conversations will not be repeated. There are 4 questions for each conversation. For each question, choose the correct answer, A, B, C or D. Questions 9 to 12.
Listen to a conversation between a student and a registrar.
Hi, I'd like to drop off my graduation form. I understand you need this in order to process my diploma.
Okay, I'll take that. Before you leave, let me check our computer. Looks like you're okay for graduation. And, actually, I'm getting a warning flag on your academic record here.
Really?
Yeah, let's see what's what. Okay, are you familiar with our graduation requirements?
I think so.
Well, then you know you need 48 credits in your major field to graduate and at least 24 credits at the intermediate level or higher. Also, after your second year, you have to meet with your department chair to outline a plan for the rest of your time here. In the past, we also issued letters before a student's final year began to let them know what they needed to take in their final year to be okay. But we don't do that anymore.
I definitely met with my chairperson 2 years ago. He told me that I needed 8 more courses at the intermediate level or higher in the last 2 years to be okay. So I'm not sure what the problem is. I made sure I got those credits.
Unfortunately, the computer's usually pretty reliable. So I'm not sure what's going on here.
It could be that I've taken 2 basic courses, but coupled both of them with field experiences.
What do you mean?
Well, I could only take intro courses because there were no intermediate level courses available for those particular topics. My chairperson told me that if I did independent field research in addition to the assigned work in each course, they would count as intermediate level courses. My classmates, some of my classmates did this for an easy way to meet their intermediate course requirement. But I did it to get the kind of depth in those topics I was going for. As it turned out, I really enjoyed the fieldwork. It was a nice supplement to just sitting and listening to lectures.
I'm sure that's true, but the computer's still showing them as basic level courses, despite the fieldwork.
I'm not sure what to do then. I mean, should I cancel my graduation party?
No reason to get worried like that. Just contact your chairperson immediately, okay? Tell him to call me as soon as possible so that we can verify your fieldwork arrangement and certify those credits right away. It's not like there's an actual deadline today or anything, but if more than a few weeks go by, we might have a real problem that would be very difficult to fix in time for you to graduate. In fact, there probably would be nothing we could do.
I'll get on that.
Now answer question number 9. Now answer question number 10. Now answer question number 11. Now answer question number 12.
Questions 13 to 16.
Listen to a conversation between a student and a professor.
Hi, Professor Mason. Do you have a minute?
Yes, of course, Eric. I think there was something I wanted to talk to you about, too.
Probably my late essay.
Ah, that must have been it. I thought maybe I'd lost it.
No, I'm sorry. Actually, it was my computer that lost it, the first draft of it. And, well, anyway, I finally put it in your mailbox yesterday.
Oh, and I haven't checked the mailbox yet today. Well, I'm glad it's there. I'll read it this weekend.
Well, sorry again. Say, I can send it to you by email, too, if you like.
Great. I'll be interested to see how it all came out.
Right. Now, I just overheard some graduate students talking. Something about a party for Dean Adams?
Retirement party, yes. All students are invited. Wasn't there a notice on the anthropology department's bulletin board?
I don't know, but I wanted to offer to help out with it. You know, whatever you need. Dean Adams, well, I took a few anthropology classes with her, and they were great, inspiring. And well, I just wanted to pitch in.
Oh, that's very thoughtful of you, Eric, but it'll be pretty low-key. Nothing flashy. That's not her style.
So there's nothing?
No, we'll have coffee and cookies. Maybe a cake, but actually a couple of the administrative assistants are working on that. You could ask them, but I think they've got it covered.
Okay.
Actually, oh, no, never mind.
What is it?
Well, it's nothing to do with the party, and I'm sure there are more exciting ways you could spend your time, but we do need some help with something. We're compiling a database of articles the anthropology faculty has published. There's not much glory in it, but we're looking for someone with some knowledge of anthropology who can enter the articles. I hesitate to mention it, but I don't suppose this is something you would...
No, that sounds kind of cool. I'd like to see what they're writing about.
Wonderful. And there are also some unpublished studies. Did you know Dean Adams did a lot of field research in Indonesia? Most of it hasn't been published yet.
No, like what?
Well, she's really versatile. She just spent several months studying social interactions in Indonesia, and she's been influential in ethnology. Oh, and she's also done work in South America that's closer to biology, especially with speciation.
Not to seem uninformed.
Well, how species form. You know, how two distinct species form from one, like when populations of the same species are isolated from each other and then develop in two different directions and end up as two distinct species.
Interesting.
Yes. And while she was there in South America, she collected a lot of linguistic information and songs. Really fascinating.
Well, I hate to see her leave.
Don't worry, she'll still be around. She's got lots of projects that she's still in the middle of.
Now answer question number 13. Now answer question number 14. Now answer question number 15. Now answer question number 16.
Questions 17 to 20.
Listen to part of a conversation between two students.
Hey, Jula, are you going to the student council meeting tonight?
Oh, that's right. It's tonight, isn't it?
Right. It's that time again. It's already the third Tuesday of the month.
I feel like we had a student council meeting just last week.
I know. This time of year always flies by. Anyway, I was asking to see if you're going to the student council meeting tonight because I was hoping you might be able to take notes for me or something. I mean, if you're planning to go.
Oh, I wasn't planning on attending a meeting tonight. I guess maybe I could go, but my economics exam is tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. I remember you talking about your upcoming exam.
I can't remember what's on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Are they going to be talking about fundraising events again? Because if it's just going to be 2 hours of fundraising planning like it was last month, I don't think I can spare the time.
Last month's meeting was really boring, wasn't it?
It really was. I mean, I enjoy volunteering at the actual events, but all the planning that goes into it, I have to admit I'm not very interested in that aspect of it.
Actually, though, I know that fundraising events aren't on the agenda tonight. It's the annual budget meeting. They're outlining the budget for next year. I really don't want to miss out on that information.
Oh, that is pretty important. I should try to go, I guess. Although it depends on what time the meeting's at. I doubt that I could stay for all of it.
Yeah, even if you can only catch the beginning or the end, that would be really great.
Well, what time is the meeting? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure it's at 7:30.
Oh, I'd still be in my study meeting. I really can't miss it. Our professor is hosting a review session, and I have some questions that I've really got to talk to her about.
Okay, I understand.
Sorry about that.
No, don't worry. It's not a big deal.
Hey, wait. I have an idea.
What?
You know that girl who just moved into the room at the end of my hall?
Oh, yeah, with the short brown hair?
Right. I think her name is Clarice.
Okay, so what are you thinking?
Well, I remember seeing her at the last student council meeting.
Oh, great. She's on the student council?
Well, I think so. Do you remember when they introduced the people who had joined the student council during the past semester? I think she was one of the people that was introduced.
Now that you mention it, I might remember seeing her there.
Well, we could ask her if she's going to the meeting tonight. Maybe she'd be willing to fill us in on what we miss.
That's a good idea, and we'll be able to get to know Clarice a little better.
Yeah, let's go see if she's at the dorm.
Oh, I can't right now. I have to head over to main campus. I have a chemistry lab.
When do you finish?
It's one of the long ones. I won't be done for 3 hours. Around 6:30.
Well, I guess we can't meet up then. I'll be in my review session.
Don't worry. I'll just try and catch up with Clarice after my lab. There's a chance that she'll be in her room around then.
Actually, why don't I head over to the dorm now? I have some time before my next class. If she's not in her room, I'll just leave a note on her door. Hopefully she'll see it before 7:30 tonight.
Sounds great. Thanks for your help.
Now answer question number 17. Now answer question number 18. Now answer question number 19. Now answer question number 20.
This is the end of part 2. Now, go on to part 3. Now you will have some time to look at part 3. We will tell you when part 3 begins. Part 3, Questions 21 to 35. In this part, you will hear 3 talks or lectures. The talks or lectures will not be repeated. There are 5 questions for each talk or lecture. For each question, choose the right answer, A, B, C or D.
Questions 21 to 25.
Listen to part of a lecture in an anatomy class.
You know how turkey has white meat and dark meat? Well, so do people. Okay, we don't call it meat when we're talking about people, we call it muscle. But that's exactly what you're eating when you eat turkey, the muscle. Personally, I like the dark meat, that is, the red muscle, that, as I'm sure you know, comes from the legs. The white meat, or muscle, on the other hand, comes from the breast and wings. Okay, so that's how the muscle types are distributed in turkeys. Eagles now are the opposite. Their chest and wing muscles are red, and their leg muscles are white. Not that I've ever eaten eagle. Anyway, what can we conclude from that difference in the color of these birds' muscles? Think about the lifestyles of the turkey and of the eagle. Think about what they use their muscles for. Okay, for one thing, the turkey doesn't fly much. When it does fly, it's in short bursts, like maybe to escape a predator. And it's got white muscle in the breasts and wings. On the other hand, it walks and runs around a lot, and it's got red muscles in the legs. The eagle, conversely, flies a lot and only walks in short bursts. And again, it has dark meat in the chest and white meat in the legs. That tells us something about the use of different kinds of muscles for different kinds of activities. Now, here's the science of it. Okay, so we know that white muscle is good for short bursts of energy, like when the turkey has a short stint at flight, and we know that red muscle is good for sustained use, like when an eagle goes soaring over the sea in search of prey. Now, let's look at the composition of the different types of muscle and see why they are so well suited to their purposes. First of all, muscles need oxygen to work, and muscles that are constantly in use need more oxygen. For this reason, these muscles have something called myoglobin. Myoglobin is a kind of protein molecule that stores oxygen. Muscles that are used continuously for standing and walking around have a lot of myoglobin. Incidentally, it's the myoglobin that gives it its dark color. And, as you might guess, the white muscle does not have myoglobin. These muscles are used briefly, and then the animal gets tired out. That's because it doesn't have a steady supply of oxygen going to these muscles. So you might be wondering where the red and white muscles are in humans. Basically, most people have about 50% white muscle and 50% red muscle, and it's all interspersed throughout the body. That makes sense when you think about human behavior. Most of the muscles that we use for short bursts of energy are the same as the ones we use constantly. Take our legs. We use them to stand and walk. These are slow, continuous movements, so we would expect to have red muscle there. On the other hand, we also use them to sprint, so we need to have white muscle in there as well. Speaking of sprinting, notice how I said most people have a 50-50 ratio of red muscle to white muscle? There's actually a lot of variation between people. Now, knowing what you know about white muscle and red muscle, what would you expect to find if you looked at the muscles of different types of runners? Would a sprinter's muscles be different from a long-distance runner's muscles? Yes, indeed. It turns out that sprinters tend to have more white muscle than red muscle. Conversely, long-distance runners tend to have more red muscle than white muscle. Now, it's possible to change your ratio of red to white muscle through athletic training. It's possible to change it a little, but you really can't alter it that much. Scientists currently believe that there's a genetic component involved.
Now answer question number 21. Now answer question number 22. Now answer question number 23. Now answer question number 24. Now answer question number 25.
Questions 26 to 30.
Listen to part of a talk in a music appreciation class.
Okay, so that was a piece called Maple Leaf Rag by Scott Joplin. It's easily identifiable as ragtime music. Now, before we discuss the piece, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the history of ragtime music. Okay, it was sort of a precursor to jazz music, and it became popular in the late 19th century and the early 20th century. Like jazz, it originated with West African musical traditions. See, unlike European American music, African American music tended to use complex rhythms, and it's noted for exploring different kinds of rhythms. So ragtime was invented in African American communities, and it was particularly influenced by the experiences of African slaves. Now, as you know, even after slaves in America were emancipated, there weren't a lot of opportunities for African Americans to make a decent living. Most had to settle for menial labor. However, employment as a musician was a somewhat viable opportunity for African Americans, because in spite of the country's racist attitudes, Black musicians contributed in a huge way to American popular music. Okay, so let's define ragtime, shall we? What did you notice about the piece?
The big thing was the syncopated rhythm. While the left hand was playing a pretty steady bass line, the right hand was kind of all over the place.
That's actually where some people think ragtime gets its name. It's from the syncopated or sort of ragged rhythm. To syncopate the rhythm is to change a beat that would normally be expected to be unstressed and change it to a stressed or accented beat. Want an example? Think of it like this. Say you have 4 beats in a measure of music. Now, a lot of times the rhythm goes like this: beat, 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 beat. The stressed beats are the odd-numbered beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you take that measure of music and stress the back beats, I mean those even-numbered beats, that's a form of syncopation. Like this: beat, 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 beat. Get it? There are other forms of syncopation, but that's not really the focus of the lecture today, okay? So what musicians are doing when they're syncopating music is they're changing the emphasis on certain beats. That's really the defining feature of ragtime music. Now, as I said, ragtime is not jazz, but it was a precursor to the style. Is there anything about the music that you find similar or dissimilar to jazz?
Well, the syncopated rhythm is used a lot in jazz. I guess it's like when ragtime musicians would rag a piece. They take a piece of music and give it a syncopated rhythm, which made it a little more jazzy. So that's obviously a similarity between ragtime and jazz. I guess that's related to what you were saying about the complex rhythms in African music.
That's right. The syncopated rhythm was an important contribution to jazz music. What did you notice that was different from jazz?
It was pretty clear that this song wasn't improvised, am I right? Whoever was playing that piece was reading it from sheet music?
That's right. Before jazz, Western music was normally composed and replayed exactly as it was originally composed. So yes, that's one way that ragtime differed from jazz. Jazz basically took ragtime and started improvising and got rid of the rigid formula. What else?
Well, Maple Leaf Rag was just a piano. When I think of jazz, I picture a lot of different instruments. I think with jazz, you usually get bands.
Right. Ragtime was typically performed on piano, solo, though there were bands who played it as well. Now, as you might guess, there were different types of ragtime pieces. Let's listen to a couple of other styles of ragtime music.
Now answer question number 26. Now answer question number 27. Now answer question number 28. Now answer question number 29. Now answer question number 30.
Questions 31 to 35.
Listen to part of a talk in an astronomy class.
Okay, folks, so we've been talking a lot recently about the Big Bang, the scientific theory of how our universe began. But you know, one thing that always seems to happen in our quest for knowledge is that the more we learn, we realize how little we know. That's a nice little paradox, right? Well, this is just as true in our study of space. We've developed highly sophisticated technology for looking at the universe, telescopes, satellites, robotic explorers, and yet, a lot of times, all these things have done is show us how wrong our old theories were. Today, we're going to talk about a discovery that really shook up our ideas of how the universe was constructed, how the universe evolved from the beginning. In other words, this discovery really changed our understanding of the Big Bang. So, this didn't come about too long ago. It was 1987, in fact. What happened was astronomers discovered a huge group of galaxies that were all kind of lumped together, something that we now call a supercluster of galaxies. Actually, our very own Milky Way galaxy is a part of this supercluster. But there are literally millions of galaxies in the cluster. It's immense. And so, the discovery of the supercluster really changed our conception of how galaxies form, and, well, how the universe itself is put together. Can anyone think of a reason why the discovery of superclusters would have had this effect? No? Well, okay. Who can tell me about the Big Bang?
It's the theory that the universe came into existence about, 10, 20 billion years ago? That there was a gigantic explosion and the whole universe expanded, or really is still expanding, outward from that explosion.
Right. So, why would the discovery of a supercluster, a huge gathering of millions of galaxies, why would that be so unsettling? What did the original Big Bang theory assume about the way the universe expands?
Well, I'm not sure if this is right, but didn't we think that the rate of expansion, all the stuff in the universe, like galaxies and stars and planets and all that matter, that it expands at a steady rate, that it was all distributed, pretty evenly?
Yeah, exactly. So, all of a sudden, with the discovery of superclusters, our model of a smooth, balanced universe was out the window. Our theories hadn't predicted a structure like this, so it meant we had to go back to the drawing board in some respects and figure out how to account for these superclusters.
I'm sorry. So you're saying that the universe's rate of expansion really isn't uniform?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. The discovery of superclusters proved this, that the matter in the universe has not spread out at a constant pace. In other words, some areas of the universe have dense clumps of stars and galaxies, and others don't. So, we now know that something, some force or event, must be interfering with that smooth expansion rate that scientists had theorized. So now the problem is, what's doing it? Well, let me just say that there are plenty of recent theories that try to tackle this problem. One is all about the gravitational forces of so-called dark matter. Another one involves the string theory of physics, which is really complex. The specifics of these theories aren't important, but you should understand that, actually, none of the new theories can completely explain why the universe grows at an inconstant rate. So, what I really want you to get out of today's class is that the discovery of superclusters showed us that our models of the universe and its creation have many flaws. A lot of our ideas about the Big Bang were incorrect, and the thing is, we still haven't come up with a theory that explains them. The clumps of matter, these massive, mysterious structures called superclusters.
Now answer question number 31. Now answer question number 32. Now answer question number 33. Now answer question number 34. Now answer question number 35.
This is the end of part 3.